Hey there, I wanted to make a video today talking about the 5 levels of guitar playing. And the reason why I've been thinking about this lately is because I'm trying to figure out, there's no like one specific way, there's no one specific set of rules of what makes a person this or this or this or this. So this is my thoughts on it. And if you play instruments and you disagree, feel free to message down below. I'd love to have this conversation with other musicians. So the first thing you have is newbie in my scale. Newbie is a person who has just purchased their first guitar, just inherited their first guitar, found a guitar on the side of the street. However they got their hands on a guitar, they now have one in their possession, and they're learning the layout of the guitar and how to tune the guitar. You know, eat at Denny's, get bad eggs. If you don't understand what that stands for, then you're not even a newbie yet. And that just stands for the tuning of your strings. Eat at Denny's, get bad eggs. E-A-D-G-B-A, or G-B-E. Sorry. E-A-D-G-B-E. Eat at Denny's, get bad eggs. And at this point, you're just learning the names of everything. What are these called? These are tuners. It's called the neck. That's called the head. These are called your fretboard. These are called your frets. This is the body of your guitar. This is, all the things. This is your nut. This is the nut of the guitar. This is the bridge. You're learning about the instrument because maintenance requires that at least the layout of the land, right? You can't drive a car until you know what the gas pedal is and the brakes is, right? And how to change gears. Okay, so at this point, if you can tune your guitar, and if you know the names of all the parts that I just said, and you can point at them on the guitar, then you're not a newbie anymore. You'll notice as we go up the scale, the time it takes to go from one to another blurs. I mean, it gets longer, and the scaling of one to another is harder. It's a gray areas in between, right? So now you're a complete newbie. You got all the parts of the guitar. How do I become a beginner? Well, what you do is you learn the cowboy chords, all the open chords, and that includes, you learn, all of them. Your A chord, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then your minors, and then what you can do, and your sevens. If you learn all your majors and minors, and then your F chord. F chord is really going to be one of the big final tests, is if you can master the F chord where you can fluently change in between your chords. There's no, all right, put the pointer, then the ring, and then, or the middle, and then the ring. It's like, no, it's just boom, you're there, boom, you're there, boom, you're there, boom, you're there, boom, you're there. When you can do all of that, you are comfortably in the beginner territory. You're not above a beginner, nowhere near close, but you can literally say, I'm a beginner guitar player now, because you are no longer a newbie. You are in the beginner category when you can play the open chords. At this point, you've been playing with a pick, and you realize that you've been letting way too much of the tip of the pick out. So you start, making it more narrow where you're just brushing the top of the strings, and you're learning chucking patterns. Oh, whenever I palm mute and I strike the strings, it makes a ch, ch, ch. So now maybe you're doing something simple like a down, down, up, down, up, and then, down, 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 chuck, up, down, chuck, whatever. And you start to learn some songs. Most songs can be played at the cowboy chords. And at this point, you are a strong beginner player because you have all your main chords. At this point, you've learned the sevens and the nines, and you can hold rhythm. You have to be able to hold rhythm at this point. That's why your chucking patterns matter. That's why, all this stuff matters. At this point, you have a good foundation of beginner. At this point, you learn the E minor scale, pentatonic scale. 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4. And then 4 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1. At this point, you have a minor pentatonic scale, which can also be played as a major if you shift down, by the way, but that's not for you guys to know. It's a beginner level. So you have a minor pentatonic scale, you have all your open chords, and you have chucking patterns. At this point, you are strong beginner. And now the next level you can graduate to is a lower intermediate level. What do you need to know in order to be at a lower intermediate level? Well, at this point, you need to also start including bar chords. You need to know at least to be to be in the intermediate level, you need to start learning your E string and your A string. When you know your E string and your A string, where you can play bar chords comfortably, switching in between those, now you've entered the territory of intermediate player. Because you have bar chords, you've got all your open chords, and your minor pentatonic, and you've got chucking patterns. At this point, you can start playing, excuse me, you can start playing your open chords with interchangeable walk downs and walk ups. I mean, you're really starting to be able to emphasize specific note patterns for emotional play. And you're able to strum all of the strings purposefully and individually if you want to. You can go in between strings. You know, if you want to pluck the B string, you don't have to think about it. You know, mastery of ease is really where it is. If you've really mastered something when you don't have to think about it and you can make it just happen. So at this point, you know, if you're able to play the pentatonic minor scale, now you're going to learn the pentatonic major scale. Okay. So now you have two scales. You have a pentatonic minor and a pentatonic major. And you've started to learn music theory. To be a strong intermediate player, you have to know some good music theory foundation. At least the foundation of music theory at this point. You understand the correlation between notes. You understand about key registers, structures, all this stuff. Because at an intermediate level, you need to know this. You've got your power chords, your open chords, and now comes the next level, bar chords. Let's say you're playing that C chord and you pop up 2 on the fret. Guess what? Now you're playing a D chord. You know, and then you, so on and so forth. And you go back down 1, now it's C sharp, blah, blah, blah. So you start learning bar chords. The 2 that you have to know at an intermediate level is the E major, because that's how you get to your F, and that's how you can do blues that way, from E to A to B to and then you can do your minors that way, and then your A. You need to know your A bar chords and your E bar chords, because with the A, you can easily transfer it to A minor, and with your E, you can easily translate to E minor. So between those 2, I call them 2 because they're very small changes, but you need to know your A major, A minor, E major, and E minor bar chords up and down the neck. And you need to be able to get to where you can play them with ease of mastery. And once you can do that, you are in the strong intermediate category, because now you've got bar chords to play with, you've got open cowboy chords, you've got a pentatonic major, you got a pentatonic minor, and at this point, at what I would consider a mid-intermediate level, is really whenever you start to decide what kind of guitarist you want to be. Because at this point, you've got the foundations under your belt. If you don't ever plan on playing lead, then those are the only 2 scale patterns you need to know. If you plan on playing lead, well, guess what? You've got modes to learn. You've got, 3 other pentatonic scales within the cycle to learn. There's there's a list. If you want to learn a solo, that's the route you need to go. If you want to learn to be a picker, well, guess what? Now you're going to be introduced to Travis picking techniques. And you're going to have to learn the 10 most common Travis picking techniques, and then you can continue to learn beyond there. Because with Travis picking techniques, it's more about right hand mastery instead of left. With soloing, it's more about left hand mastery instead of right. You know, do you want to learn blues? Well, guess what? Now you're going to have to be introduced to the triads, which are all over the neck. In order to be a decent blues player, now you have mastery of that E. Holy crap, now what? That means with those E bar chords, you can now play some good blues. And then E, A, B7. And you can do that easily with your bar E chord. You can play your E7, A7, and B7. And then you've got your other ones. And then you start to learn the triads if you're going to go into the blues route. You got to learn all the triads. And for the blues in the key of E and A, at least those two, you have to learn all the triads. And there's a lot to learn. Trust me, I know 6 currently. And that's not all of them. And that's between the keys of E and A. Or let's say you want to be a bluegrass picker, you know? Well, guess what? Now you got bluegrass riffs to learn, patterns to learn. Like, I could go on and on and on here, but once you hit that mid-intermediate level, you've got the basics of guitar. You know, at that point, you can call yourself an intermediate guitar player. How do you get to an advanced guitar player? Well, at that point, you have to specialize, like I've said. And then you have to become really good at your specialization. I personally, in order to be considered an advanced player for me, I think you need to be able to play 5 songs within your specific specialization that are of high difficulty level. And if you can do that with mastery of ease, meaning you can do it without thinking about it, well, then you can start to call yourself an advanced player because you're specialized, which means you're advanced. I mean, in schooling, that's what the graduate school is. It's specializing, and that gives you an advanced standing. So I'm applying those same concepts to guitar training. So once you have that capability, and you have to be able to play it at mastery net level, not an easier version of it, not a simplified version. No, you have to play that full thing that was played on stage to a T with mastery of ease, or ease of mastery. And once you can do that, then I would say you can call yourself a beginner advanced player. How do you go from a beginner advanced player to a master player? I have witnessed what I would consider a master player a couple of times. The difference between a intermediate player and a beginner, you know, the difference of players, most people will learn the cowboy chords and call it a day. Well, you know, like maybe 1 out of 10 will go up to intermediate. Well, out of those intermediate, maybe 1 out of 10 will go up to a advanced level with specialization. And then out of that, maybe like 1 out of 100 will go to an actual mastery level. By the way, the advanced standing, I do expect you, if you're an advanced guitar player, you better have a solid understanding of music theory, not just a beginning. Why? At, at that level of play, I better be able to say a 1, 4, 5 start on A, and you should be able to go, gotcha. Let's do it. Or you know what I mean? Or I should say it's a 1, 4, 5, 4 starting on B. All right, cool. We got it. You know, or whatever, and if none of that makes sense to you, then guess what? You're not there, okay? Then that proves that you need to study music theory. But okay, so mastery level. What is a mastery level? In my opinion, to be a master at the guitar doesn't mean that you have to go through and individually master all styles of guitar. What that means is that you have to know your guitar so well that you know when you press down on the 4th fret on the 3rd string, you're going to get this tonality. And you have to be able to remember all the tones in your mind for every string on every fret. So when you hear a song, and your brain at, ease of mastery will immediately go, oh, that's how you play that. And then you could turn around and easily replicate it. And not just the solo, but the whole thing. You can run the bass and the solo simultaneously. And I've seen maybe like 4 or 5 people online that I would consider to be at that level, where they can hear something, and then as they're hearing it, they could turn around and play it for the first time with ease, like the whole thing. It's because they have realized, they have reached the goddom of playing on the guitar. They don't see things as notes anymore. They just see them as sounds versus touching on the fretboard. And, you know, like, oh, I can touch here, 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 and get that sound, and blah, 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 blah. And then they've mastered left hand and right hand play so that they could literally just hear something, turn around and play the whole thing back to you, you know, within a matter of like 30 seconds of their brain translating it over into the tonalities that they've subconsciously remembered from the guitar. I would consider that to be a true master of the guitar. If you can't do that, you are not a master. You're not, because you've literally not mastered your instrument. Because in order to truly have mastered your instrument, you have to be able to hear that tonality being played on a song you've never heard before. And as you're hearing it, your brain is subconsciously showing you the notes. You know, showing you which string is being pushed down where. Because, let's be honest, if you hear a guitar, you should be able to identify that note. Otherwise, you're not a master. And you should be able to do it live in time and then turn around and have the skill to be able to play it instantly. Both the bass and the treble at the same time. So those are what I would consider the 5 levels of guitar playing. We'll go through it again. Newbie, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and master. I would consider myself a intermediate. Although I have some advanced skill, I've not yet hit all the pre-qualifications on intermediate yet to be considered advanced. I already had a ton of knowledge of music theory, which is what helped me be able to push beyond on some levels. Because music theory can make a big difference. But I would say I am in line with the intermediate scale. I've checked all the boxes on beginner, and I'm 3/4 of the way through checking the boxes on intermediate. The only thing I really need to work on is the slide chords, my E and the A. Those are the only things I'm lacking within the intermediate scale. So let me know down below. Like, as a guitarist, none of us have an actual list. There's no one identifying list to say, here's what you have to do to be here. Here's what you have to do to be here. So this is kind of my thoughts on the matter. I plan on playing many hours this summer. By the way, I've got over 750 hours in on the fretboard. I've logged every hour since I've gotten this guitar. And on an Excel sheet. And I'm over 750 the way there. So once I hit 1,000 hours on the guitar, I plan on doing a 1,000-hour concert. Not where I'm playing for 1,000 hours, but where I'm showing off my current skill level when I hit 1,000 hours. So yeah, if you have any friends that play instruments, share this out to them. I'd love to know what you think about like guitar levels. See you guys next time.